if you are asking a question and your mind is this question answering machine, what's the best way to determine between an answer that your mind is coming up with and something that's actually coming from your heart?
Well, for one thing, there's a difference in how it feels, okay? There is generally a lightness, a yesness, a sense of fundamental agreement with it. It's like, your truth is your truth, and there's a part of you that recognizes that if you listen for it. Now, it doesn't mean sometimes you won't have fears come up right along with those inspirations, particularly if your truth is dramatically different from what you've been conditioned to believe it's supposed to be, or who you're conditioned to believe you are, okay? But there's a different feel to it, and there's a sense of grandness about it that just the thoughts in your head can't give you. Another thing that we notice that, it's like if you're asking those questions and the answer is instantaneous, that's mostly supplied by your head, by your conditioning. If it's an answer that's particularly familiar to you, perhaps something that you've explored before time, then chances are that's your conditioning, okay? Your heart, in most cases, particularly those on an evolutionary path, your heart is going to lead you in new directions, more expansive directions, and some that will definitely be different from what you're accustomed to. But different doesn't mean bad or wrong or inconsistent or whatever. It means that's a higher truth. It's a grander step toward the wholeness of who you are. And so it's just being willing to listen and be willing to practice. We find that a lot of people are afraid to be wrong, They get an insight or inspiration and they're terrified that they might be wrong about that, and so it paralyzes them, or they dare not, tromp off in some new direction because it might be wrong. And so it tends to keep people stuck in the limitations or limiting beliefs or limiting version of reality, But if you are willing to be wrong, you also run a very good risk of being right and being very pleasantly pleased, surprised, delighted by the consequences. So it's willing to take that step, even when your conditioning says, "Don't you dare step out of your little cage." Okay, it's just baby steps. You don't have to take a cosmic leap, but just baby step. Put a toe in the water. Be willing to do that, and so it's being willing to listen and practice. When you get insights, you're willing to practice that. You must put it into practice if you're going to demonstrate its validity. Again, because of that fear of being wrong, people are afraid to practice the insights they get. But a few simple things that are pretty safe, even for an ego mind that's afraid of change. It's like, why not practice a little gratitude once in a while, a little appreciation of the things? Why not just literally take the time to smell the roses? Notice the beauty in your life. Many times, because the ego construct has set up defenses against even divine guidance, it will notice those dramatic shifts and will say, "Wait a minute," and it'll start digging its heels. Mm-hmm. But you take something simple like noticing the beauty in your life. Well, your ego can kind of go along with that, can play with that. It's not going to freak out because, it's beautiful. It'll even notice that itself, Your ego is seeing those things. So doing simple things like that help you get your state of consciousness in resonance with your divine presence. And then the guidance that's forthcoming seems much more natural, much more real. It's much safer because it feels more like you, because you're being more like you, So, practice that, being delighted at things, being grateful at things, making choices for the joy of it. Any choice, and if that's a cup of tea at sunset, then by golly, if that's your thing, do it, Doesn't really matter what it is particularly, but if your heart's in resonance with that expression, creative activities in particular, any creative activity, if yours is needlepoint or rebuilding houses or whatever the case might be, it's like, allow yourself to go there, allow yourself to feel the flow of that. That may not always be justifiable to your head, But if your heart's in resonance with something like that, that puts you as a being more in resonance with your divinity, where that grand wisdom is.
Beautiful.
Indeed.
I suppose that this could extend to all areas of your life as well. I know there's a lot of people struggling with that they're not doing the work that they feel that they were meant to do. For example, the same sort of thing could apply to any of those areas of your life.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because evolution does not have to be work. Okay? That idea that it must very definitely fits in with your conditioning, that that's what you as a being are here to do, work. You know, you're born, when you get old enough to do work, you work, and you work until you retire, or until you transition, and, you know, that's life. That's not life, you know. Certainly you will be active. You know, certainly you will exert effort, as it were. But work for work's sake is kind of missing the point, and it's especially missing the point when we're talking about spiritual evolution. Okay? The most effective way to evolve is through play, you know, through the fun, through the joy, you know, not the drudgery. You know, if you're in drudgery, you're missing something, you know. And if it's a constant struggle, you're definitely missing something. And that's something that's most likely a conscious connection with the source. Okay? And you get that, and things start getting play real quick. You get in touch with that presence within you, and you know, the beauty, the flow just naturally starts unfolding. You know, you have those happy coincidences, you know, your synchronicities, etc. It's just a natural part of your life when you're in tune with your true consciousness. So play at it, or at least aim at playing at it. If it's just too big of a stretch, then baby steps, a little bit, you know, and see what happens. See what happens. You don't have to be so hard on yourself. Okay? You really don't.